Alright everybody, welcome back to another 5-9 gaming edition of Genshin Impact. Today we're going to cover the Resin systems and our current grievances with it. Today I have with me Gale and Nasdorachi. If you guys want to introduce yourselves real quick.
What's going on, everybody? Here to talk some Genshin with y'all.
Hello everybody, how's everybody doing this fine evening, morning, night, whatever time it is? Yeah, we're going to talk about the Resin system and of course the big question on why is it a problem and how can we fix it?
So I'll go ahead and get into our first issues, like our personal problems. Now I'm finding that I want to play this game for hours on end, and I want to do a bunch of co-op, and I'm running out in like 15-20 minutes, and then I'm done. How about you, Gail? Because that's my stop for it.
No, I agree 100%. I think the biggest problem, of course, I think everybody has is, you know, each domain, leyline, boss, it costs 20 for the basic domains and leylines, and then 40 for the elite bosses of like the Hypostasis or the Regisvine or the Oceanid, and then 60 for the weekly bosses. And then you add in potentially when they do more co-op-y stuff and you actually have to farm them for, say, a potential event shop or something, and that also costs resin. All of this ends and it adds up inevitably, and then what we get is a lack of resin entirely, and we don't get enough in a day to be able to do a decent amount of runs, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with Gale. I mean, he covered all the technical side of it right there, but in layman's terms for me, like, there's nothing really to do in the game at this point. And that's going to be a huge point of the discussion that we're going to circle back around to. But the game is so new, once you finish your quest line and you hit that, wall of, nothing to do in the game, which tends to kick in right around, like, I would say, in the 30s to 40s is when you're going to start to experience it the most heavily, that being your adventure level. So you can't play co-op with your friends, like Gale said, for too long. There are no dungeons or any gameplay mechanics that don't revolve around this resin system. So other than doing like common chest routes or trying to get some of the more low tier upgrade materials, there's nothing to do in the game if you don't have lots of resin to spend. When it's then point, it becomes obviously apparent that spending money is the only way to keep playing, which that is a little frustrating.
Yeah, and another thing is you can fight the bosses and whatnot without having to use the resin, because you don't have to claim the rewards. But that's the whole point. You're fighting these bosses, but with no like reward. So you're basically doing it for no reason. And yeah, you can have fun with your mates and just beat up bosses, but more often than not people will do those bosses only to just get the rewards, or try and get rewards as well for doing or investing time into the game. So it's like I think what they're trying to do with the resin is like, oh, you can still play without the resin, but because there's no reward incentive, not many people appreciate that kind of thing, unfortunately. And it's true, you wouldn't appreciate anything if you're investing time and not getting anything in return,
Yeah, like, it would be so simple if they, and this is one of many suggestions that we're going to get into, but even in that sense, like, even if they pulled the adventure level experience out of the chest, like, say you kill the boss, you get the adventure level experience for enduring the fight, whether you open the chest or not. Like, even something as small as that, or, making some of the upgrade materials drop, but you can't get the legendary or the purple artifacts unless you open the chest. Like, simple changes like that would just be a complete 180 and make it, the game so much more easy to just play with friends continuously.
I agree.
So yeah, if we're talking about how to fix it, one of the ideas I personally had was letting us see what we were about to spend our resin on, especially since it's randomized. It would allow me to sit down and want to play co-op with a group of friends, want to do several runs so everybody's getting the best loot possible for each of the runs. And then you can say, this isn't worth my time, or maybe if you are just trying to blow through your resin quickly, you could just, claim the boss loot 3 times and go on with your day.
So to elaborate on that, what you're saying is, like, once you defeat the boss and you see the flower, the blossom there, for example, you can see what's in it before you decide to open it. Like, maybe you can't see the individual stats, but if a piece of gladiators is in there or a piece of wanderers is in there, and then that can help you decide whether you want to open it or not.
Definitely, and then you could just hit like reject on the flower, it disappears off into Wonderland, and you go on to the next boss, the boss goes on cooldown, and you just keep making laps around your world, killing all the bosses as quickly as you can, check the loot. It gave you incentive to go check out each of the bosses, you know, play with your friends, get these fights down, because you're going to be doing a lot of fights, but a team that does it right would, you know, they'll get ahead of everybody else that's just quickly tapping it. And I think that would encourage gameplay with your friends without, you know, giving us more than what you've already said is okay for us to achieve.
Yeah, I agree too. Oh, go ahead, Gail.
No, I was just gonna add on, like, that would be such a huge. It would help out massively, personally, of course. I think the amount of times I've gone into one of the domains, I think it's the one with the Maiden's Beloved set and the Anemo Damage set, and the amount of times I've just gotten the Maiden's, like, artifacts rather than either the Anemo Damage set or even the Miracle set. And it's just like, if I could at least check before I, you know, waste my resin, then I would, you know, be putting it in the right place. The only reason I don't see them doing that is because it would, like you said, it would just incentivize and push people who are grinding a lot more, and I don't think they want to try and do that. But besides the point, like, I would back that so much because it would save so much resin.
Yeah, to expand upon what Gail just said on the tail end of there, like, the reason the system exists in the first place is to basically limit what we can do in the game because they are still progressively adding to the content of the game. They don't want us to just rush through it, get our level 80 characters, and just be done with it. So they put up all these intricate systems to time gate you from being able to just rush your way to the end. And, I mean, it's an intuitive system to a degree, but the fact that, you know, it's got monetization aspects to it, and it's extremely long cooldown timers, you know, 1 resin for every 8 minutes, taking, 16 hours to fully replenish it. Those are some issues that I hopefully they will tackle because, you know, there is a balance here. Like, the fence goes both ways. They do need to make some money to keep the game afloat and to keep generating tons and tons of new content. But at the same time, we have to balance the pleasurability or the fun factor of the experience. So hopefully there is some wiggle room in this system as the game continues to grow and evolve.
Yeah, 100%. There are obviously more ways they can improve it. I think this is the most common one that's suggested by everybody, which is like uncapping the resin cap, which is obviously would be massively appreciated. But like Nas mentioned, the biggest problem with the resin system right now, alongside the cap, is the duration it takes to restore your stamina. Like, it's probably one of the biggest we've seen in any gacha. 8 minutes per resin is quite a drastic amount, and it takes like 16 hours to get from 0 to 120. And if you decide to uncap that even more, say it goes up to, let's say, 240 at AR 50, let's say, just assuming a random number and a hypothesis, it's going to be like 32 hours for it to like fully restore, which is crazy in my opinion. But obviously there are other ways to like smoothen that out, is like making the influx of or the intake of fragile resin a lot more, because we get only like 1 or 2 per AR at this point, and especially once you hit higher ARs, it's a lot harder to go from one AR to the next one. So the current intake for fragile resin is quite limited, so increasing that would be amazing. And just to top my point off is, like Nas said, I think if they could at least give, say you don't claim the rewards, at least give half of the rewards. Like instead of 100 AR, give 50 AR if you don't claim the flower, and then give the extra 50 AR if you claim the flower, or something like that. That would be super nice.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're fighting the boss. That constitutes as experience in RPG terminology. Like, you fight it, you kill it, you get experience. The rewards can be completely separated from that, but at least give us some, if not all, the experience for enduring the fight itself. Like,
exactly.
I feel like that's a little counterintuitive, that you get the experience out of the chest as well.
Well, I think that ties back into what the whole resin system seems to be designed to do, is it essentially just time gate you. And we can kind of segue into our next section then, is if we actually think it will be fixed, because I I personally see the resin system as the way that they get you to come back. You mentioned it takes 16 hours, so that's pretty much once a day for most people. You get on the day, you blow your resin, you do whatever it is you're going to do in the world for that time. And the only way I see them actually addressing this is by either having, the fragile resin that you can use to give yourself extra resin that's only, usable for 48 hours if you would, so you couldn't stockpile it up and save it for a crazy event or what have you. I feel like that's the only real way they will address it, because otherwise they would have just uncapped our resin already or made the dungeons cost half off for the weekends. But
you bring up an interesting point there, which is like an idea that I just got. Because like you said, they don't want you to straight up be able to have an infinite supply of the purple fragile resins, to just stockpile for whenever you want them. But to expand on your idea, they could add something to the blacksmith, because we know most of us saw the Zhongli preview where he was doing his little technique to mine, and we see there's a new magical crystal in the background, right? They could add an item, a resource, a mineral ore, whatever you want to call it, that you have to mine to then bring to the blacksmith. And he could create something like an ethereal fragile mist, one that's it has that 48-hour limit, so it's kind of ghostly, so you have to use it before it disappears, and you have 48 hours where you can use it, and you could actually spend time grinding in the game to get a resource to then craft something that'll allow you to continue your adventures with resin. Because I couldn't see them implementing restoring resin out of chests or dungeon rewards, because then you're just spending the resin to get it back, which I don't know, that system doesn't sound like it would be as it wouldn't make as much sense to me as getting it from another source as a reward from a drop or something.
Yeah, I feel that's kind of counterintuitive, but yeah, no, that's actually a cool idea of being able to mine something, and then for a limited time only you can craft. Well, not limited time only you can craft it, but you can craft it, and then for a limited time only you can make sure you have to use it within a certain time duration. Another thing they can do, which I think, and first and foremost addressing if they will fix it, I think they will. It might not be as immediate, within the next 2-3 weeks or the next big update or even the one after that in December. The best I can see it, maybe the February update, they might bring in something, because right now I think they're focusing entirely on making sure the game is as smooth as possible, trying to make sure they're focusing on what is coming out immediately in the next 2 months, and then maybe they'll focus on bringing improvements to the overall structure of the game. But one more way I feel they can also improve it is if there's some games have this mechanic where you log in and at a certain time or and 2 certain time periods, and if you log in they give you resin. I think if they add that sort of a feature, so if you log in between say 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. you get 60 resin, and then if you log in after that 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. you get another 60 resin. I think that would be something cool as well. It's a very small amount, but it's basically giving you 1 whole stamina bar per day basically for free. I think that would be a cool addition as well, to maybe I wouldn't say make it a lot better, but make it a lot easier on players. They have something to also get through the day, rather than just only spending that 1 bar that they get and then waiting for it to restore to top again after 16 hours.
Yeah, they could work that into the game real seamlessly. There could just be a certain cleric who's in Mondstadt at the cathedral, and he's like, I'm a traveling cleric. I'm only here between X and such hours. But you go talk to him, and he'll refresh the resin, and then he goes away. He'll come back once later in the evening, and that would be super easy for them to drop something in like that, just like an NPC that could handle that. And I do agree when Gale said, I think that this is a system that's going to evolve over time. Anytime I think about this game, I first and foremost associate it to all other games as a service, and pretty much all of them, 2 to 3 years into the game, are vastly different than what they were on the game's release. So I can't imagine that this system is set in stone and it's not going to change somehow. With all the different items and currencies and different subsystems that exist in the game, it's extremely hard for me to imagine that they don't add some ways to tackle the resin and there not being enough of it available, And also, we know that they're planning to add at a minimum of 6 to 7 other regions to the game if you associate a specific region to a specific type of element, like the dendro, anemo, the ice, fire, lightning. So, assuming that they have a region that's somewhat specific to each element, there's going to be just an enormous map. And if they add a whole bunch of activities that aren't dependent on resin, then you have stuff to do, actively all the time to play the game, and then you can balance that with the activities that require resin. So I want to have faith. I'm going to maintain a positive outlook that this is only the beginning of something, and it's going to evolve a lot over time.
Yeah. No, just to finish off that point, a lot of gacha games have this sort of like a very slow start, not much to do in any game. So like Nas said, very positive outlook still. I still enjoy the game a whole lot, even with the problems I have with the resin system. And yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, because I think I have as much as I have lost faith in a lot of gachas over the last couple of years playing so many. I have faith in MiHoYo to potentially improve this. I think they have a decent track record, at least from what I've heard with Honkai. So, yeah, hopefully they apply it to Genshin as well.
Yeah, just throwing in my final notes too. I think that they have a really great game and a really bright future, and it seems like they want to do their player base right with the already asking for player reviews in the first week, and I feel like they're going the right direction. And if we're overwhelmingly telling them we need more co-op, we need more resin, I think that they'll find some sort of resolve for us, whether it be more resin or more content that doesn't require it at all. We'll just have to see how they go.
Oh yeah, and then right before we close out, we know that they already are semi-aware of the system, because we do know of the concentrated resin item that's coming out. Now it's kind of like, I don't want to use the word upgrade, because it's kind of like a neutral side grade, because it doesn't actually help you get more resin or do anything quicker, but it's basically a bank system that will allow you to store resin if you're not able to play, say, for a couple days. If you're going out of town to a business meeting, your phone doesn't have mobile installed on it, you're going to be busy, you can't play, you can log in for 2 seconds and transfer all of your resin into the concentrated resin to bank that for later. So already we do know that they are making some type of adjustments or additions to the system, and just based off that alone, I'm going to go ahead and assume that's just going to be the first of many features that they're going to introduce to, change and alter the way that these systems work. So unless anyone else has any closing thoughts, we do know the system is a problem for now, but hopefully it's just growing pains with the game, being born and its first, month being alive. So if anyone else has anything they want to finish out with, I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That concentrated resin, like you mentioned, is definitely not a big upgrade, but it's noticeable they're focusing on a lot of quality of life stuff. We've mentioned it in the podcast, the other stuff that they're bringing in. So they are aware of stuff that'll make players' lives a lot easier. It's just a matter of time, giving them time more than anything, and us being patient and hopefully enjoying the game until they bring it out, pretty much.
Alright, well, I guess that's going to conclude our video today, guys. Everybody that came by to watch us today, thank you very much for doing so. Please feel free to check out Five Nine Gaming for more content in the future, and we'll be covering everything Genshin Impact that there is to come.
Peace out. Have a great night, everyone. And be sure to check us out on Twitter and Twitch as well if you want some content that might be outside of just the boundaries of Genshin alone. We're trying to diversify, keep things nice and fresh for everybody. So hopefully we'll see you again real soon regardless.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. There you go.